The New York Rangers see their 4-game winning streak as well as their 7-game point streak snapped in a tough 3-2 home loss against the Carolina Hurricanes at Madison Square Garden. We're going to talk about just a chaotic finish to this game, a wild third period, another really strong performance from Igor Shesterkin. Tyler Motte, I thought, played a whale of a game for the Rangers. We're going to talk about him. We also get a scary moment when Ryan Lindgren returns to the lineup, but then briefly exits with an injury. Going to talk about that and the long-term, outlook on Ryan Lindgren and how the Rangers should treat their star defenseman down the stretch here. All that and a whole lot else on today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers. Welcome back, Blueshirts fans, to episode number 789 of the Locked On New York Rangers podcast. I'm your host, John Chick. Just want to thank you guys, as always, for making Locked On New York Rangers your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms, and today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers, it's brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, official sportsbook of Locked On. Make every moment more. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn today to get started. And yeah, this is the kind of game that, it's not going to bother me all that much. The only part about this that bothers me is the fact that it felt like the Rangers were going to end up winning this game. It wasn't a perfect game by any stretch of the imagination by the Rangers, but this was a spirited, competitive game, a playoff-like atmosphere. I thought they might go on to win this game 1-0, and then we got just that crazy sequence of goals and crazy sequence of events, really, that all happened in the third period. We're actually going to start today's episode talking about that, but yeah, it's one of those things, the winning streak and the point streak can't last forever, but it just felt like the Rangers were on their way to a quality win over a very tough opponent, and it just was not meant to be, thanks to the Canes rallying late and finally solving Igor Shesterkin. But I want to start today's episode, like I said, talking about everything pretty much that happened in the third period. Like I said, it was just kind of a crazy ending to this game. The temperature really rose in the third period, and we had goals coming left and right. But yeah, the Rangers were up 1-0. Going into the third. The only goal of the game to this point was scored by Tyler Motte. We will talk a little bit more about Tyler Motte in just a little bit as well. But Igor was really sharp, and as I mentioned, this one had 1-0 written all over it, at least for me. I know there were chances both ways, but it just felt like one of those games where that final score could hold, mostly because Igor Shesterkin was, on top of his game early in this one, that is for sure. So I mentioned the temperature rising. One of the first incidents of this is, Kakko was taken down near the benches, and Aho, for some reason, had him in a headlock, and you had, Alexis Lafreniere coming over there. He was going after Aho a little bit. So, like I said, the intensity definitely picking up down the stretch here. Then you had a situation where Jesper Foss trips Igor Shesterkin behind the Ranger net. Skate on skate. I don't know if Foss did it on purpose. You would like to think hopefully not, but regardless, that is still a penalty. Igor and Foss were exchanging words with each other when Igor was leaving the ice. That gave the Rangers a power play. Unfortunately, Rangers not able to capitalize there. And as a quick aside, the Ranger power play was not good at all in this game, 0 for 3. But besides that, they just didn't get enough scoring opportunities. And there were a couple of different chances where the Rangers had the man advantage, and a goal really would have, obviously not sealed the win or anything like that, but it would have given the Rangers a 2-0 lead in a game that, for the most part of it, was obviously a low-scoring game, and that would have been big. Rangers just were not able to make that happen. Then you had Aho and Trocheck. They were mixing it up behind the Carolina net. Aho earlier in the shift had gotten a piece of Trocheck. Trocheck came in, knocked Aho to the ice. I was kind of surprised they didn't call Trocheck for a penalty on this. I'm glad they didn't. But Brendan Moore wanted a penalty. He made that very clear. And as I mentioned with Trocheck in the past, the only nitpick that I have with him is that he does seem to take too many penalties. And granted, this one was not called, but I'd be lying if I said I wasn't, holding my breath after I saw Trocheck after the play go over and basically just knock Aho down to the ice. But fortunately, the penalty was not called. Unfortunately, the Canes score on a rush just after this. You have Jalen Chatfield scoring. He went up the right side, made a perfect shot off the post, the far post, and into the net. My first reaction to this was, who is Jalen Chatfield? I honestly had not really heard of him, but apparently he's having a nice season with the Canes as kind of a depth defenseman there. But he ties the game with a perfect shot. And as the announcers mentioned, you pretty much had to go get a perfect shot on net if you were going to be able to beat Igor Shesterkin in this game, with any kind of a goal. The good news is that the Rangers struck right back. You had Ryan Lindgren. His shot was blocked. Kaapo Kakko uses his right skate to play the puck up to himself, to his stick, shoots from the doorstep, and scores, and it's 2-1 Rangers with less than 10 minutes to go. Kakko went 11 games without a goal. would have been a big moment for Kakko and also Ryan Lindgren. Lindgren, of course, left this game with the injury. He had missed a whole bunch of other games with an injury. He would have gotten the primary assist on a game-winning goal here. Unfortunately, it was not meant to be. And Kakko had gone 11 games without scoring a goal. So to get a clutch game-winning goal late would have been awesome for him. But, Kakko mentioned, and this is through the announcers once again, that, he's not discouraged. He feels like overall they're playing well. Obviously, the team has been winning, and he feels like it's eventually going to come. And, we saw Hedl get out of his scoring slump recently. Kakko does it in this game. Hopefully that's a sign of what is to come for the kid line. Unfortunately, this Ranger issue where they're just not sharp on the shift following a goal. And to be fair, Kakko scored right after the Canes scored, but then the Rangers give it right back. 18 seconds later, the Canes tie it. The puck drops. The Rangers, they initially clear their zone. The Canes get it back in. We've got a pass from the corner in front to Nosen, and the culprits for the Rangers, so to speak. You had the Panarin line out there, so Panarin, Mika, and Tarasenko. You also had Miller and Trouba on the ice. For some reason, when the puck was initially played behind the Ranger net, Miller left the front of the net and went into the corner to try to get it. Not really sure why he felt he had to do that. And by the time the puck went around to the other side, the other corner of the rink, Trouba, who I think believed that Miller was still in front of the net, he went into the other corner. So you've got two defensemen basically in the two opposite corners in the defensive zone for the Rangers, and that's obviously not good. The front of the net was left wide open. And that's how the Canes were able to score this game on a tip-in goal there. And then, of course, you get the game-winning goal by Teravainen. He scores with just 2:33 to go. Rangers, once again, cannot clear the zone. Looks like Lindgren had a chance and just couldn't get it out of the zone. Canes keep the play alive. And then you've got Burns passing in deep for Teravainen, who scores the tipping goal. That makes it 3-2 Carolina Hurricanes with just 2:33 to go in the game. So, yeah, just not sharp down the stretch were the New York Rangers. And as far as this issue where the Rangers continue to give up goals, or it seems like they give up more goals than most teams do in the shift that follows a goal, you know what? Give me the fourth line on the shift that immediately follows a goal for the New York Rangers. To begin with, they've played very well recently. They're all known for being defense-first forwards, and I think they will continue to be known at that. I'm talking, of course, about Tyler Motte, Jimmy Vesey, and Barclay Goodrow. But, they get pucks deep. They battle for pucks. They get in your face. They've even been scoring some goals recently. Tyler Motte's on a little bit of a heater right now with 3 goals in his last 4 games. So give me the fourth line out there in the shift that immediately follows a goal. And for anybody that might say that, well, you can't have the fourth line out there when it's a tie game and, 5 or 6 minutes to go, yes, you can, because this line has played that well. They're as deserving of ice time as anybody else. They've just been very, very good recently. Those 3 players have really seemed to gel together. And as I've mentioned before, that is easily the best fourth line that the Rangers have had all season, Motte, Vesey, and Goodrow. But we're going to keep everything rolling in just a second. I mentioned very briefly Ryan Lindgren and, the fact that he was back in this game. Obviously, a lot of us have been hoping that he would get back into the lineup. We're going to talk about him, his performance, and the scare that he all gave us. We're going to do all that and a whole lot more in just a second. But first, we do have to let everybody know that today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers is brought to you by FanDuel. The tournament is heating up, and now is the perfect time to download FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because new customers get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's bonus bets back if your first bet does not win. Just download the FanDuel Sportsbook app. It's safe, secure, and super easy to use. Then you can bet on everything from the money line, 2-point scores, and threes drained. Plus, FanDuel even lets you combine your bets for a chance at a bigger payout with a same-game parlay. So don't miss the chance to get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000 in bonus bets when you go to FanDuel.com/lockedon. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon to learn more. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. And I just wanted to mention that I'm dealing with a little bit of a sore throat right now, so apologies ahead of time, and thank you guys for bearing with me, and we'll get through this episode together here. But I definitely wanted to talk about this game. Obviously, it's a very competitive game, playoff-like atmosphere. Wasn't going to take the day off or anything like that. But we go back to Ryan Lindgren. I want to talk a little bit about him for sure. I mean, he obviously got back into the lineup on this night, and it was cool because when he first stepped onto the ice, he got a little bit of a reaction from the fans at Madison Square Garden. It wasn't like the whole crowd was going nuts, but you could hear it. It was very audible. Ryan Lindgren getting a nice hand from the Garden faithful, welcoming him back into the lineup. Like I said, though, he did give us all a little bit of a scare. Second period, He was doubled over after being in a collision with Jesper Foss. Foss basically elbowed Lindgren, and this was before, he ended up tripping Igor later in the game, so I don't know what was going on with Jesper Foss in this game, but Lindgren was called for the penalty, despite essentially being elbowed by Jesper Foss. So Lindgren goes off for holding, but he didn't even stay in the penalty box. He went right to the dressing room. Vladimir Tarasenko served the penalty for the Rangers, and at this point, we're all kind of holding our breath. The good news is the Rangers killed off the penalty. And at that point, the Ranger PK was at 24, for their last 26 when it comes to killing penalties. And of course, the good news is that Ryan Lindgren eventually returned to this game. He was back on the bench late in the second period. I don't believe he got back out onto the ice until the third period, but he got back out there. As far as, going forward with Ryan Lindgren, I feel like the Rangers need to prioritize getting to the playoffs healthy. At this point, it's certainly looking like they're going to be a playoff team. They've got, a lot of clearance on some of the bubble teams, and they've obviously been playing very well recently. But I mentioned the other day that I'm not willing to completely discard home ice advantage. I think it does matter. I think it can matter. I think certainly a Game 7 in any playoff round, you'd like to have that at home. Not that you can't win a Game 7 on the road, but I do think home ice advantage matters at least a little bit, and especially for the Rangers last year, 8-2 at home in the playoffs, 2-8 on the road. So I'd like to see the Rangers get as good of a seed as they can, but the main priority, what's more important than that, is that the Rangers get to the playoffs healthy, and especially somebody like Ryan Lindgren. Look, if the Ranger coaching staff determines that he could use a couple days off here, a couple games off, then I think that's what they have to do. Don't break your back, don't break your neck trying to, get from third place to second place, or, get from second place to first place, whatever the case might be. The far more important thing is that you have all hands on deck in your area to rock when the playoffs start here. So it's going to be very, very interesting to see, what happens with Ryan Lindgren, if he's going to be back out there for the next game, if the Rangers maybe try to play it a little bit safe with him, or maybe he's back out there for the next game, but then somewhere down the road here, they give him a day off. We'll see how the Rangers look to play it. But after all this happened, Ryan Lindgren, as I already mentioned, he got the primary assist on what could have been the game-winning goal by Kaapo Kakko. And the reason that happened is because Ryan Lindgren is a beast. You're not going to keep this guy down. He obviously missed some games this season. I think that's the most he's ever missed in a season, due to injury at least. His rookie season or his first real season with the Rangers, I know that he didn't play all the games, but that's because he started the season with the Wolfpack. Ever since he's been here, though, he hasn't really missed a ton of time when it comes to injury. But he got back out there, got the primary assist on Kaapo Kakko's goal, so that was awesome to see. The other kind of subplot to Ryan Lindgren being back, or, we think he's going to be back after this, is that it relegates Ben Harper to a healthy scratch, which is unfortunate because I think overall he's done a nice job for the Rangers this year, but he's just kind of the odd man out. They on pretty much every night are going to dress 6 defensemen, and with that being the case, there's 6 guys in front of him. I know there's certain Ranger fans that would prefer Harper over Mikkola, but overall, I think Mikkola brings a little bit more to the table than Ben Harper. He's obviously somebody that's, had a pretty nice career for himself overall, and big physical defenseman is Mikkola, and, with Ben Harper, we're down to just 11 games remaining. I am going to be very curious to see if and when the Rangers put him out there. Like, say the 6 defensemen that are in front of Harper all stay healthy for the rest of the season. Does that mean that we don't see Harper again for the rest of the season, for the rest of the playoffs? I don't think that'll be the case. I get the feeling down the stretch here, even if everybody stays healthy, and even if the coaching staff does not believe that anybody needs a day off, needs a game off, I still think you'll see Harper slot in for maybe like 2 more games, possibly 3 games down the stretch, although probably more like 2, because you don't want to be in a situation where you get into the playoffs and one of your defensemen gets injured, and then you have to play somebody who hasn't played in weeks and weeks and weeks, as would be the case with Ben Harper if he doesn't play at all down the stretch in the regular season here. So I think even if everybody stays healthy, you'll see Harper maybe slot in for Mikkola, in the last couple of games, maybe like the 3rd to last game, the 2nd to last game, the 4th to last game, somewhere in that area, just to make sure that Ben Harper still has his legs under him and is still ready to go if the Rangers need him in a pinch come Stanley Cup playoff time. So we'll see how they look to play it. The other thing that's entirely possible is that the coaching staff might decide that, we'll give Jacob Trouba a game off near the end, especially if the Rangers are locked into their playoff position. If they're in a spot where they can't go up or down, and they're locked into, say, that number 3 spot, the number 3 team in the Metro Division, then I think you'll see that happen. You might see, Ben Harper slot in there if the coaching staff determines that, this defenseman or that defenseman could use a day off, could use a little bit of a rest down the stretch, and making sure that they're ready to go for the playoffs and well rested for the playoffs. All right, we're going to keep everything going. In just a second here, I want to talk about, just kind of the playoff intensity of this game and how, even though the Rangers lost, it might benefit them to play in this kind of a game. Also going to be talking a little bit about, a couple of the Rangers, former Rangers being back in Madison Square Garden. Going to look ahead to the schedule that the Rangers will have, and also a quick standings check as well. We're going to do all that good stuff in just a second. But first, we got to let everybody know that today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers is brought to you by Indeed. No matter how the last game went, anytime you take the field, you've got a shot at greatness. Give your team the best shot at winning by recruiting more MVPs with Indeed. If you're hiring, you need Indeed, because Indeed is the hiring partner where you can attract, interview, and hire all in one place. And Indeed is the only job site where you're guaranteed to find quality applications that meet your must-have requirements, or else you do not pay. Instead of spending hours on multiple job sites hoping to find candidates with the right skills, you need one powerful hiring partner that can help you do it all. Indeed makes it easy to hire great talent. According to ComScore, Indeed is the #1 job site worldwide. Start hiring right now with a $75 sponsored job credit to upgrade your job post at Indeed.com/lockedon. Offer valid through March 31st. Go to Indeed.com/lockedon to claim your $75 credit before March 31st. Indeed.com/lockedon. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed. All right, so I want to go ahead and talk a little bit about Tyler Motte and specifically the hot streak that he's been on, as well as just him playing just what I thought was an all-around great game in this one. One of those guys who just leaves it all on the ice every single night. And, of course, with Tyler Motte and his performance last night, the first thing you got to talk about is the goal that he scored to put the Rangers up 1-0. And as I mentioned earlier in the episode, a little bit of a heater for Tyler Motte right now. He's scored 3 goals in his last 4 games, his first 3 goals with the New York Rangers since coming back to the team. So, first period, Rangers lose the faceoff. Barclay Goodrow gets it back. He starts to head behind the net. Really kind of sold, did Barclay Goodrow, I thought, that he was going to take the puck behind the net, but he didn't do that. He passed in front to Tyler Motte, and Motte scores from the doorstep, gives the Rangers a 1-0 lead late in the first period. Later in this game, Motte was engaged with Martinook, and he ends up catching a glove to the face, and then he ends up catching a stick to the throat, and as a result of that, Martinook heads to the penalty box. So Tyler Motte, once again, taking a beating here, but also drawing a power play for the New York Rangers. Then there was a situation where he has to hobble to the bench after he blocked a shot with his ankle, and then we get into the third period, and Motte was also shaken up after kind of an awkward collision with Nichas, but it was also good defensive play by Motte, not allowing Nichas to get to the front of the Ranger net after the Canes had entered the Ranger zone on a rush. So all around, just great stuff from Tyler Motte. And I understand there's some Ranger fans at times who will say, like, I don't get everybody's obsession with this guy, but I think when you see him play as well-rounded and complete of a game as he played in this one last night, and just how hard he works, and how, he's willing to absorb a lot of physical punishment just to do something small, like block a shot to help the Rangers win a game, I think a lot of Ranger fans, myself included, really certainly can appreciate that about Tyler Motte. And, obviously, fingers crossed that he's all right. Like I said, he had to leave the game twice, or didn't really leave the game, but he had to hobble to the bench 2 different times in this game, so hopefully he's no worse for the wear going forward here. The other thing I want to mention about this game, it was unfortunate that the Rangers couldn't get the win, especially because, like I said, they led in this game for pretty much the entire way, except for the last, 2:47 or whatever it was there, but I think a game like this kind of gets you ready for playoff-type hockey. And look, I enjoyed what the Rangers did over the weekend as much as the next guy. You beat the Penguins 6-0, you beat the Predators 7-0, 13-0 combined score, back-to-back shutouts, all that good stuff. But, those games were laughers, and it's easy to, win a game when everything's kind of going your way and you're feeling it. This is a game where, everybody had to grind a little bit. And again, the Rangers didn't get the result. It would have been obviously a lot better if they won this game. But just to play in this type of a playoff-like atmosphere, close, competitive, low-scoring game, low scoring for the end result was pretty much low scoring too, but very low scoring for the first 2.5 periods there. Only one goal being scored. I still think that bodes well for the New York Rangers going forward. Obviously, the Carolina Hurricanes are a team that the Rangers are starting to develop quite the rivalry with. We saw them play each other in the bubble playoffs. The Canes swept the Rangers. We saw last year the Rangers coming back against the Canes, winning Game 7 on the road. And it's a team that the Rangers might well see again in the playoffs this year. It's going to depend what order everybody finishes in the Metro. The Rangers could see the Canes in the first round. They could see them in the second round. Good to play a tough, competitive, just blue-collar, hard-nosed type of game like this was if you're the New York Rangers. And we'll see if they end up matching up again in the playoffs at some point. But they will, for sure, match up again this Thursday. Rangers going to be on the road against the Carolina Hurricanes at 7 p.m., and that will be the final meeting this season. The Rangers won the first two. Canes obviously won this last one. Rangers with a chance to take 3 out of 4 from a team that, is up there as far as Ranger biggest rivals. I'd probably put them at or near the top 5 as far as biggest New York Ranger rivals right now. To kind of wrap up today's episode, though, I wanted to mention something about Jesper Fast, and I mentioned the penalties that he took in this game and just kind of weird stuff going on there, but Sam and Joe mentioned this during the broadcast, and it's something that I did not realize. Apparently, Jesper Fast won the Players' Player Award, which is voted on by all the New York Ranger players. He won that award 5 years in a row, so he's had a serious monopoly on that award. Obviously, I knew he was a hardworking player, very well liked by his teammates. I believe he was an alternate captain toward the very end of his tenure with the New York Rangers, so good stuff there. And props to Jesper Fast going from being a 6th-rounder to somebody that's had a very nice career for himself. As far as the Ranger upcoming schedule, Rangers are at the Canes, as I mentioned, on Thursday. They are then at the Panthers on Saturday. That game has a 5 o'clock start time, and then a rare 2 straight days off for the New York Rangers. The Rangers won't play after the game against the Panthers until they are home against the Columbus Blue Jackets at 7 p.m. on Tuesday. So we'll look forward to all that. Again, big game against your rival Canes. Then you've got a game against a team that is on the bubble right now in the Panthers. You've got a game against the Jackets where you can't have a letdown. And then we might as well just do the rest of the schedule to wrap up the month here. At New Jersey on Thursday the 30th, and then at Buffalo, another team that's sort of on the playoff bubble, on Friday the 31st. So 5 games remain in the month of March for the New York Rangers. And then you turn the calendar to April, and there's only 6 regular season games left, and that's it. After that, we're going to the playoffs, and hopefully a lot of good times ahead for the New York Rangers. But that will do it for today's episode, guys. Once again, thank you, as always, for tuning into the Locked On New York Rangers podcast, your team every day. If you would like to get in touch with this podcast, please send an email to lockedonnyrangers@gmail.com. Once again, that is lockedonnyrangers@gmail.com. And definitely give us a follow on Twitter as well, at @LO_NY_Rangers. Once again, that's at @LO_NY_Rangers. And definitely subscribe to Locked On New York Rangers YouTube channel. Thanks again, guys. I'll see you next time. Thanks for making Locked On New York Rangers your first listen every day. Now make your second listen Game to Game NHL. Every moment, every top performance, every result. Locked On Game to Game covers every game from across the NHL with local analysis that only Locked On can deliver. Follow Game to Game on Locked On NHL, available on the Odyssey app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts.